friends. This is another episode of the program Empire of Lies, in which we talk about manipulation and disinformation of the Russian media. When truth turns into a show, Russian television remains the Kremlin's main tool for internal mobilization. And the most illustrative example is Vladimir Solovyov's programs, where each week turns into a theatrical production about weak Europe, mighty Russia, and inevitable victory. Solovyov's latest episode once again demonstrates this method in its purest form. Europe as a caricature, Solovyov and his guests present European leaders as grotesque characters. The new German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is portrayed as a caricature Nazi who belongs in a helmet with a machine gun. The rhetoric is deliberately offensive. The goal is to evoke a feeling of superiority and contempt for Europe in the Russian audience. This is not analytics, but sarcasm, designed to displace rational perception. Europe as the world's outsider. The program claims that Europe has become a backwater of world politics and economics, while real history is being made in China, India, and Russia. Such formulations are not just a statement. They are an attempt to convince the viewer of the devaluation of the European project itself. Any achievements of the EU are ignored, and every internal dispute is presented as a split and the end of civilization, apocalyptic language. We will be forced to destroy Europe. NATO is an existential threat. The Germans will again get the country divided. Such statements are heard regularly and with impunity. They are presented not as a hypothesis, but as an inevitability. For the viewer, this creates an atmosphere of endless war, where compromise is impossible and any disagreement is interpreted as weakness. Manipulation of history. From the First World War to Odessa in 2014, historical episodes are used as arguments against Europe and Ukraine. But the interpretation is always selective. It is mentioned that Germany suffered a defeat without troops entering Berlin, while the real diplomatic and military dynamics of that time are kept silent. History is transformed into a tool for justifying aggression, and not a reason to analyze mistakes. Ukraine as expendable material. The key line is to show Ukraine not as a subject, but as an instrument in the hands of the West. Russia is allegedly not at war with a neighboring country, but with NATO and the collective West. In this way, strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure and the idea of an eternal conflict are justified. At the same time, civilian casualties are deliberately hushed up. They are mentioned only as a consequence of incorrectly located air defences. And what do the Europeans want, and what have they been tempted with? For me too, in fact, is a big question. But it seems to me that, the wish of this European syndicate is, after all, it consists of a simple thing. Let's go and plunder Russia. Just a little bit more, let's do more. Well, let's satisfy Zelensky's request for 100 a year. But in a year, 2 or 3, we will still finish off Russia. And then Shost gets together and says, wow, how many of you are here? What a number of you. And look at the Ukrainian press, look at the European press, look at the hysteria they are in. Why is this important for Europe? For a European audience, such programs are a mirror of how Russian television explains peace and war to its own citizens. There is no room for facts or real international analysis. There is only a scenario. Europe is weak and dependent. The US is a falling power. Russia and its allies are the new center of history. This picture does not reflect reality, but it shapes public opinion inside Russia, justifies repression, military spending, and the continuation of the war. And it is precisely this narrative that European politicians have to deal with. Every time they think about negotiations, the audience inside Russia is prepared in advance for the fact that Europe is not equal, not needed, and doomed. You were on the program Empire of Lies. See you soon.